Lots and lots of news today. 4 guests. If you're listening to us via podcast, you'll see those in different episodes. Sometimes people ask, but if you're on YouTube, you just get the straight 2 hours of Braun Kratz and KP, Kevin Pillar. KP, before we start, or I guess this is how we should start, did you see and feel for Orioles manager Craig Albernas the other day?
The answer to both is yes. I saw and I felt. Obviously, what happened to him is probably it's different. When you're a player, you're kind of expected to go out there and play. We're not expected. I wanted to go out there and play. There's some limitations. The fact that he gets to sit in the dugout and not have to go compete, a little easier to bounce back. But when you're talking about facial and eye bones, it's a little bit different than a shattered nose.
Yeah, so his report was broken jaw hit by foul ball, at least 7 fractures in the cheek area, and no surgery. The jaw doesn't need to be wired shut, but it did sound like a baby food diet was in the works. I just read stuff, so I don't know if anything was said in jest, but I actually think that's probably the case. So it's tough times.
Yeah, I mean, luckily no surgery, because the jaw can be, obviously very difficult if you get wired shut. Probably his ability to manage, communicate, obviously go argue with the umpires is a little bit more limited. I think there's some of us that, get a little bit older would benefit from being on that liquid diet, but also the cheek area and the face, the fact he doesn't have to have surgery, because it's pretty serious when your face gets cut open. So what was a really scary situation, which is still kind of a scary situation, you're so close to the batter's box when you're there in the dugout, the best case scenario for him.
Can you explain yours?
What happened to me? I was very lucky.
May 17th, 2021.
Yeah, I was very lucky that it was a direct shot strictly to my nose. And I can't even tell you how many different sorts of breaks I had in my nose, but it was only my nose. I had no concussion symptoms. I had no blurry vision. I had no facial fractures. I mean, that also played into the part why I was able to come back so quickly is, a couple of days after I went and had what they consider a closed reduction surgery, where they don't cut me open. They basically, put you out and they smush it back together to kind of form a nose. And once I think it was like 7 days, I just couldn't get my heart rate up. Once I was cleared from that, I was fine to play. I didn't have a lot of use of my nose for breathing. And then in the off season, when the season was over, I went and had like a full, reconstruction of my airways and my nose and everything. And honestly, it was a blessing in disguise, because look at this thing now. Kratz, yeah. I don't know if you remember before, but much improved.
It was terrible. I was thinking about when you were going to pop on the show, I was like, I just remember how ugly you were before, and you had like a nose like mine, super huge and like kind of tilted. And we used to talk, hey, who's getting sent down today? Because one of our relievers just went 3 innings, so they got to bring someone else up. So it was either you or me, because they were never sending Tolley down.
He's not wrong. I mean, it's the truth. The truth hurts, and all kidding aside, that was kind of like, you kind of have to laugh at yourself in certain situations. And I always, say it was a blessing in disguise that I got hit in the nose. If it was like a different part of my body, I could have, there's other parts of my body that were fine. But if there was one area on my body pre getting hit in the face that I would have liked to change, it would have been my nose. So thank you, Jacob Webb.
Thank you for that 94 to the face. I am now beautiful.
Stop looking for a slider. Stay on the heater, KP.
I was sitting changeup. I'll be honest with you. I was sitting changeup.
Leaning out. This one's got to break, right? Break my nose.
Nope.
Wow.
It broke. It just broke something else.
Yeah. You're our baseball to the face specialist, among other specialties that you have. All right, let's get to the top news in terms of what happened in Thursday's slate. And then, of course, we'll get to some news that broke this morning. But let's start with the near no-no.
Charging the mound.
Yeah, charging the mound with Parker Messick. 8 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, gave up a couple knocks in the 9th. He carried that bad boy into the 9th inning, a no-no, at 106 pitches. It was not dramatic in the 9th. It was 1 pitch, Leody Taveras. knocks it through the right side, Kratz, and it gives attention to someone who has looked really good in limited time so far in his career, with Cleveland coming up last year and looking like he's carrying that momentum into this season.
Did you know what his ERA was before the game? Raise your hand
Career?
if you know. Just this season. Nobody had heard about Parker Messick's start to the season. Everyone was talking about José Soriano, Shohei Ohtani. Parker Messick had like a 0.7 ERA in his first 3 starts. And he goes out there, and I thought he was going to do it. No jinxes aside. It just felt like the way he was doing it, I thought he was going to be able to get it done. And I thought it was going to be quick. I just didn't think it was going to be first pitch. He was going to lose it in the 9th. And then 2 hits. Oh, crap. And then the 2 runs. Crap. His ERA goes up. He almost has a historic night, and then his ERA goes up.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I was watching the game too. Good buddy of mine, Cody Allen. Those were his first games he was doing for the broadcast. I didn't message him during it, but I'm thinking to myself, what a hell of a first game of the season to be there for. But I kind of just got this. I kind of felt for him a little bit, because that inning leading up to the 9th, which would be the bottom of the 8th, kind of just dragged on a little bit. And as a pitcher, they just want to get back out there, get into a routine, but I didn't know much about him. I just happened to turn the TV on. I think it was the only game going on at the time. So I had watched him throw maybe 3 innings up until the 9th inning. And, as a guy who at the back end of his career was, called upon to hit lefties, that changeup that he has would have given me an absolute problems. I would have lost sleep thinking about his changeup, because he's nasty. And then the other thought I thought about too is, and Kratz, you could probably speak on this a little bit too, but I was thinking, younger guy, the pitch count, up to 100, how many different organizations would allow him to go out there, a young pitcher to go out there and, kind of pass that 100 pitch threshold? I think it was a kind of a blessing that he was in Cleveland, because they've been known to just know how to manage their pitchers. They have good feel for, were those innings stressful? Is he in a good rhythm? They kind of are one organization that feels like they kind of throw the pitch count out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's less the organization. Some organizations are very helicopter parent. I think it's good as his manager was Stephen Vogt. I think Voter understood it. I think Voter also understood that you have Austin Hedges behind the dish, and he'll let you know if, like, hey, I think we're taxing this guy too much. Everybody wants the no-hitter, but at what cost? And when I went back and watched it, all the balls that were put in play, all the strike, it just didn't feel like it was that taxing to me. He didn't have any traffic. I think he had 2 walks. It just felt like he was cruising to those 100 pitches. I should have looked. I didn't even see what his other pitch counts were the rest of the year. I mean, he got up to 84, 91, and 76. So he's kind of built up from his first start, where it was 76 all the way up to 91. So it's okay to throw a little bit more. I thought he could have finished it. Shoot. Didn't.
You mentioned Stephen Vogt too. Another thing that I really like too is you've seen it so many times where if they allow a guy to go out there and kind of chase the no-no, as soon as they give up a hit, they take him out. He gave up that hit on that first pitch. They brought the pitching coach out, more than likely to get the bullpen ready, but also maybe to just settle him down a little bit. I love that they allowed him to face another hitter. Then he gave up the second hit, and it's like, okay, your day's over. But so many times they kind of pull the cord. You lose the no-hitter, but being able to go CG and a shutout is also a huge accomplishment for a young pitcher. So I love the fact they allowed him to face another batter after he gave up the hit. And, unfortunately it didn't work out, but I think he just put himself on the map, in the baseball world. He's going to be a guy, at least for me, next time he touches the mound, I'm going to be tuning in.
Then they were in trouble. I mean, Cade Smith, one of the best relievers in the game, but
yeah,
it became a game really fast. It's like, bases loaded, nobody out, sac fly, double, and then he was able to shut the door, Cade Smith. But it got a little dicey there in the 4-2 win for Cleveland. The other thing that's crazy is just how long it's been since the organization has had a no-no. KP, 45 years, May of 1981, Len Barker. And it's not like the organization's never had him. And also the organization's been around forever. If you root the franchise back, there's been 14 of them, including 3 from Bob Feller, but none since the early 80s.
Well, and I just think about, the time that I was competing against, Cleveland, and there was great pitching before that, but I'm thinking in like the 2010s, you got primetime Corey Kluber there, multiple Cy Young Award winner. You got a guy in Danny Salazar who just had stuff. You had Cookie Carrasco there, just to name a couple guys. The fact that they haven't had one in so many years just speaks to the difficulty of, and there's a huge element of luck that goes into it. You obviously have to have your A game on. Sometimes guys are going to hit the ball hard. You got to have some, defense behind you. But, I think that's why we all tune in is the rarity that they happen. When you get a guy going, 8 innings, no hits. I think the entire baseball world tuned in and was rooting for him.
And you get the signature defensive plays too. Kratz, Kwan's catch against the wall. Jose Ramirez made some nice plays, including the catch against the netting. You had some signature moments if it ended up completing itself.
For sure. You didn't have the robbed home run or the ridiculous diving play in the hole, but he needed his guys behind him. And, some people were like, we even talked about it in our production meeting, like, oh man, that ground ball, that was, the base hit, the first base hit was right to where the second baseman should be. But you go back and there was 2 or 3, definitely 2 balls that the shift helped him, including Pete Alonso hit one up the middle that the second baseman was almost exactly where we just had it on the screen, basically right behind second, just a little to the right of second. And he made the play routine. The no-hitter would have been broken up earlier had they played a complete, no shift, just a regular straight up. So, look, the shift giveth and the shift taketh away.
Yeah, that's why you can't say anything.
If we knew where the guys were going to hit it, then we would have more no-hitters, right? Like, we're playing the probabilities of where we believe the guys are going to hit it. And to Kratz's point, we never talk about when a guy's in a shift and they do take the hit away. It's always the one where, oh, man, he should have been playing, in his normal position. He would have had a no-hitter. It's like, no, if the second baseman would have played his traditional spot, we wouldn't be talking about, him going 8 innings. He probably would have lost the no-hitter in the second or third inning.
Shifting works. The entire league does it. It's not even a debate. Yeah, shifting works. You don't play straight up old school baseball style on everything. We had to make rules to adjust it so that it didn't look insane, and I like the rule, but shifting still occurs in a different way, and it works.
And if you look at that overhead they showed of where the positioning were, I mean, you can notice the outfielders were also shifted too. They had a little bit more pull. They had a little bit more pull, traditionally in the infield, and it looks like the outfield is playing a little bit more opposite field gap. So that's just the nature of the game we play. We have so much information where it's not like, we used to just say, hey, this guy's a pull hitter. We move everyone to the pull side. Like they know, Tavares against left-handed pitching is more likely to pull the ball on the ground, but he might hit the ball to right center a little bit more in the air. So it's just, it's just what happens. Baseball is a crazy game. Sometimes guys, find holes.
Messick walking the leadoff man to start the game is always a classic too. I just picture somebody, probably fan in the ballpark, being like, oh, here we go. And then they're like, yeah, here we go.
Then that fan hadn't been watching Parker Messick pitch this year, because this dude's been in control, not even just this year, like coming up last year. He's got 11 starts, 12 starts. This was his 12th start. Like a 2 ERA. And don't get it twisted. He keeps this up, another Rookie of the Year candidate. So obviously he's got a long way to go, as all the rookies do, but that's a good start.
And there's just a stupid amount of competition this year on the rookie list.
But you also just think about battle. You just think, I mean, and it's so fitting that it's a pitcher in Cleveland too that probably not a lot of us had heard of up until this point, but they just do something over there, and you have to credit, their pitching department, their pitching coach that's been there for in eternity, but they just have a knack for finding great pitching, and this is just another guy that's putting a Cleveland uniform on and is going to probably go on and do great things in his career.
Hey, one more thing from that game before we get to Ken. Stephen Vogt has friends, and he likes to prank his friends. The Guardian skipper pranked his former right-hand man, very good friend, Craig Albernaz, who's running the Orioles dugout these days. And Albernaz went into the visitors manager's office where the desks and the chairs were all kid-sized. Also a Spider-Man shower curtain, bluey stuff. This from Jake Rill, who I think covers the Orioles for MLB. So that's fun. Well played.
I love it. Shout out to Cressy. What's his name? Is it Willie? Willie on the visiting side? Because that takes a little bit of work from the visiting clubhouse guy to be on board, move the furniture out. But I love it. It just kind of speaks. The game is still bigger than baseball. Like friendships last forever. Obviously, they had a great relationship. Learning under Stephen Vogt, allowed him this opportunity. Just because they're competing on the field doesn't mean they can't be friends and make light of the situation. And obviously everything kind of changes when and it just puts into perspective too. He gets hit in the dugout there. That's where the game's bigger. But hopefully, after getting hit in the face, he has to go back and sit in a kid-sized desk. Maybe it's not as funny then, but it still just kind of makes light of a fun situation.
Yes, well played. All right, let's get to Ken. Yeah, this is the Inside Scoop. It's presented by Game Changer. More on that coming up in a moment. But first, let's get to Ken and talk about someone who kids look up to for a long time. And that's Mike Trout. I loved your column, Ken. Can you tell us about what you saw this week from Trout putting on a show? And also so many people going, is Mike Trout back? He's always been amazing when he's on the field.
Right. And that's the thing that sometimes people forget, especially maybe younger fans who weren't around when he was dominating the game in the 2010s. This column is basically about just that he is back and back in a big way and healthy and contributing like he has in the past when healthy. And the fun part of it for me was talking to Brady Anderson, the Angels' new hitting coach. And he basically said, hey, man, just look at the top 20 in OPS all time. You'll see his name right there with DiMaggio and Musial and all these guys. That's who he is. And yes, that's the player we saw again at Yankee Stadium this weekend. And the other thing about Trout that is notable, I know a lot of fans and even people inside the game over the years have expressed frustration that he never wanted to leave Anaheim. And Kevin, maybe you can speak to this. That is not an indication of any lack of competitiveness on his part. He is extremely competitive, extremely fiery in his approach and the way he goes about the game. It's just that he's been loyal to that franchise. So it's good for everyone to get a reminder again of just who this guy is. He's approaching his 35th birthday and he is going quite strong.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can sit here and people could talk about his lack of competitiveness and not wanting to play in a winning organization, but I think he should be applauded for his loyalty. And I'm an NBA fan. You see it all the time in the NBA. Players want to team up so that they can create super teams. Mike, as drafted, developed by Anaheim, has always wanted to be there. He's always wanted to win there. And unfortunately, it hasn't happened, but. I think we should applaud him for his loyalty. And I guess my question to you is you've been in the game a long time too. The show that Mike Trout and Aaron Judge put on collectively, one of the greatest kind of back and forth duos you could remember in recent history.
Yes, and it actually harkens back to McGuire Sosa in 98. And we all know now that we look at that a different way, but that was the kind of excitement that we saw back then. Back then, it was checking the box scores every day. It wasn't an internet back then, and just wow, marveling at the fact that these two guys were one-upping each other on almost a daily basis. That's kind of what this reminded me of, Kevin, and it was really cool just to see these two players on that stage, which was one of the biggest in the sport, kind of dueling each other with home runs. And obviously the Angels were off to a surprisingly good start. The Yankees, not so much. And that was the backdrop to all this, but this was really a case of two superstars on display at their finest.
Obviously, spring training, it's always best shape of my life. The first time I saw Trout hit a homer, I think he hit it in Houston, I think was his first homer this year. It looked like he had lost some weight. Was there talk around the clubhouse when you're talking to different guys like, there does look like something different, or is it one of those things? Yeah, he hit a homer. Of course, it looks different because he's out on the field.
I don't know that physically he's all that much different. Maybe he did lose a little weight. Erik, actually, I haven't asked him that. I haven't seen him to ask him that. But certainly, again, the feeling always is when he's healthy, you're seeing something unbelievable. Now, over the previous 5 seasons, he actually has missed more games than he has played. So we haven't seen this guy except in flashes. And maybe this is just a flash. And who knows what his physical condition might be the rest of the way. But everyone can hope that it's good. And the other thing about Trout that I want to mention, the people who are closest to him, teammates like Kevin when he played with him and others, they are the people who speak most highly of him. And I always am struck by that. Just talking to Brady Anderson and John Gibbons. Then they're two new coaches with the Angels this year. And Anderson said he's about as down to earth a superstar as you ever would meet. Actually, Gibbons said that. And Brady also spoke to Trout's humility and just the way he goes about it. And this is a guy who does not seek attention, has not obviously chosen to go to the big bright lights, signing big contracts with the Angels instead. But he is someone who, in the game, and you heard Judge's comments this week too, he is revered. And he's revered because he goes about it the right way.
Yeah, I mean, I could kind of speak on that. When I signed there, early in the season. I wasn't with them in spring training, and you just kind of never know how you're going to kind of be received by a guy like Mike Trout. And he was nothing but, kind and gracious. And it was during a time of his injury, and he just, opened up to me and asked me my opinion on certain things. And to your point, probably the most humble superstar I'd ever been around. You mentioned Brady Anderson, though, in your conversations with him at all, because I've seen the video where he's kind of implemented that Arenado step back a little bit. Did he mention anything about some mechanical changes that maybe he implemented, or are these things that Mike kind of implemented on his own?
Yes, we did talk about that. And Anderson actually said that Trout started doing this toward the end of last year. And remember, the end of last season, he was really good. And that's when he started the step back, which is kind of a counterintuitive thing. You're stepping back with your back foot. It doesn't seem to make sense, but it kind of enables him to load properly. And it wasn't something he started the season with, but he went back to it, I don't know, about a week or two ago. And for now, he feels comfortable with that. And clearly, it worked out pretty well for him at Yankee Stadium this week.
Hey, last one on this, Ken. I mean, you go from people saying, oh, Trout's cooked. You could never trade even a slice of that contract to where's he going? Just got to ask the classic question. If Trout does this for the entire first half of the season, do you ever think there's a world where the Angels try to capitalize on trading him when his value is high and he could contribute to a contender? I'm going to preface this because Angels fans are going to lose their mind if history plays itself out like it has for the past decade and the Angels aren't good.
Well, if he is this for the first half and their rotation remains what it is right now with some pretty impressive things going on, they're in contention. And they're not trading Mike Trout, not even thinking about trading Mike Trout. And honestly, Scott, we can talk about this on shows like ours and I can write about it, but I can't imagine anything changing because even if the Angels want to trade him, he has said repeatedly he doesn't want to go. And I would think that that is the direction that this is going to end up in. If he's really good, they're probably pretty good, at least in wild card contention. And heck, in that division right now, Seattle is not what we thought, at least not yet. And it's more wide open than perhaps we all envisioned at the start of the season.
All right, a team that does want their superstar back on the field in Juan Soto. Is there anything in the timeline that we can glean from what we've been hearing about the fact that he's been running, or I think he ran 2 days ago, and the Mets desire to not rush him back, but they don't score any runs without him, so they need him back?
It sounds like next week for him, and that's if everything goes smoothly, of course. I don't know that they're going to rush him, and I don't know that they're not going to rush him. And what I mean by that is they're going to let him proceed on his own due time. And listen, if it takes Juan Soto 3 or 4 more days, this is a 6-month season. The Mets are not going to rush him back and say, oh my gosh, we need you right now. We saw last year they were the best team in baseball in early June, and then things collapsed. Why can't they just do it the other way this time, like they did in 2024. So there's no need to rush him back, even as bad as they look offensively. They need to get this right, and they need to make sure he's okay before he gets back on the field.
We all know New York can be a tough place to play. We know the media can be tough there. Are they making a bigger deal out of what's going on in New York in terms of, the Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto stuff? And then maybe just talk about, you've covered, Francisco Lindor a long time. We're seeing a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes that he's been making. Do you chalk that up to maybe missing majority of spring training, or is there something deeper there?
Kevin, they lost or have lost 8 straight. And you lose 8 straight in any market, there's going to be heat. If you lose 8 straight in that market, there'll be more heat because there are, yes, more reporters and frankly, more fans than in most markets. And that is the nature of playing for the New York Mets. Everyone knows it, and it shouldn't be a surprise to any of them. They're playing poorly. They're going to get ripped for it. And frankly, they've been pretty honest about it with their own analysis of the situation. They're not happy. Carlos Mendoza the other night was as ticked off as he's probably been in a long time as Mets manager. As for Lindor, no one seems to have a good feel on what's going on here. And whether it's, as you said, Kevin, missing spring training, or whether it's simply a mental slump, if you can call it that, or if something is going on behind the scenes that we don't know about that is somehow affecting him. This does happen with players all the time. And I frequently say on the show that it's difficult sometimes to assess these guys, not to make excuses, but we don't always know what is going on behind the scenes. And like any of us, if you have some kind of issue personally or whatever, it might affect your job performance. So that said, he hasn't said anything. I haven't heard anything along those lines. And right now, all we can do is assess his play, which has not been Francisco Lindor-like. And he does need to snap out of it for them to snap out of it.
Yeah, physically, obviously, the stats are not there. But when you see those mental lapses, you question, and you're like, okay, they got to pick it up, or they're going to fall deep behind. My question to you: what is the latest news, gossip, tea, whatever the people are saying on the Padres' potential sale that could be massive amount of money that I didn't think the Padres would be sold for, especially since the Mets just got sold, I don't know how many years ago, for less than this?
Well, there was news this morning, first reported by the Wall Street Journal, that a group led by José Feliciano and his wife Kwanza Jones has bought the team for $3.9 billion. Previous record, as you mentioned, Erik, was $2.4 billion. Now, the deal's not final yet, and there's probably going to be some dots to be crossed and T's or whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, what is happening here is cosmic for the game. It's a huge thing. And with the Padres going for this amount, I'm sure you're going to hear conflicting accounts of what this means. And we wrote about this, Dennis Lynn and I, a couple of weeks ago when we first heard that the team was going to go for $3.5 billion or above. Very few California teams have come for sale in recent years. There are a lot of wealthy people in California. So that in part is what has driven the price to this level, the scarcity and the demand. That's simple economics. But if you are the Players Association and you're about to engage in collective bargaining negotiations in which the owners want a salary cap in part to enhance their franchise values, you might say franchise value is looking pretty good. San Diego Padres just sold for $3.9 billion. They're a mid-market team. They're not a large market team. And that's an argument too. So I see both sides of it. I see what I expect to be the league's point of view, that this is an outlier. And I also see the player's point of view, if this is indeed what it becomes. Hey, tell us the sport is broken. Not when this team is selling for $3.9 billion. So not all situations are alike. We know San Diego is not Cleveland, is not Minnesota, is not Pittsburgh. San Diego is unique. They have built that franchise to the point where it is that attractive to buyers. But at the same time, the gap between what they will sell for and what the Mets sold for in the biggest market in the country not that long ago, well, that tells you something about the state of the sport. It's not a complete picture, but it's certainly a data point.
Yeah, it's a great point, Ken. This part is true. I mean, we've talked about this, leagues have caps for cost certainty that improves franchise values. Just to give more context to fans, that's where owners say, hey, we need this too. We're not making as much or getting as much for our teams once we sell them. You see something like this pop up. And also, of course, that is the primary purpose there. On the other side, if you want to improve, say, competitive balance, you could share the wealth and the team could still spend that much. You don't need these levers in place. So my question and point to you is, we saw from Forbes and Sportico about 3.1 bill. So this obviously goes well above that mark. But even that mark, I think for Forbes, was 59% year over year. And they're not including the scarcity and, California is going to be more sexy for people that are trying to get something there. So point is, the valuations are soaring regardless. And the Padres are in, if not the smallest, one of the smallest TV markets with really nothing going there until they get their next deal. So when you add all of that up, again, how healthy is the sport and how much could this lead to potentially even more of a debate and fighting leading into the CBA talks?
Well, there's going to be a debate and there's going to be fighting. There's no question about that. That would be the case if the Padres did not sell for $3.9 billion, and it is the case that they are selling for $3.9 billion. Now, the league will point out Twins didn't go for nearly this much when they were selling part of their team. I think the valuation was 1.7 billion or so. And also this 3.9, once you reduce debt or take the debt off it, maybe it's 3.4. I don't know, but it's still going to be a huge number, a record number. And again, the league is going to say this is not reflective of all of these small market franchises. This is a unique circumstance because of what I just described, the scarcity. How much you buy that is basically in the eye of the beholder. But at the same time, this deal is also happening before the national TV deals are signed, before Rob Manfred has implemented what he wants to do, which is make more of a national package with the local rights, and of course, before the CBA is settled with or without a cap. People were willing to spend this much money for the Padres with all of that uncertainty. That does tell you something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, speaking of money, we're seeing a ton of rookie deals. Is this because we have a unique rookie class, or is this kind of foreshadowing maybe something that could be happening, with the lockout pending?
Kevin, in my view, it's simply because there are so many talented players that teams want to lock up and secure and get cost certainty over in what is currently an uncertain situation. I don't know that the CBA talks are driving this any more than would be the case in a year when the CBA was not up. We've seen extensions for young players for quite some time now. Bobby Witt Jr., Julio Rodriguez, these are not unusual. It seems like there are more this year. I'm not even sure that's the case. I'd have to go back and really look at it. But it does reflect also the immense talent that these teams are developing and drafting with what they have in place. So what's interesting to me also here, Pittsburgh, a small market team, did this with Connor Griffin. The Detroit Tigers, a mid-market team, did it with Kevin McGonigle. Seattle, a revenue-sharing recipient, if not a small market, did it as well with Colt Emerson. They've done it with Julio Rodriguez. There are ways for teams to lock up their young players if the players are willing to sign these kinds of deals, and these deals are getting richer and richer. So again, is the glass half empty or is the glass half full? And it's going to depend on the side that you fall on here.
Hey, last one for you, and I'm going to tie all of this together. Last, I would say, major deal money-wise that you'll see for a free agent is someone you reported on the other day, and Lucas Giolito. I'm bringing it up here again because we talked about your story along with Patrick Mooney and Tadej Sharma covering the Cubs and Padres as possible suitors. With this news coming out with the Padres, do you think there's a chance that the owner can make a splash here if the deal gets done and now actually approves whatever? I made up a number the other day, 10 mil, 5, it'll be 5 prorated for a team that's the hottest in baseball right now, won 8 in a row, and lost one of their best starters in Nick Pivetta for a while.
All right. First of all, Scott, the deal for the Padres is not final yet. And then it needs to go through the approval process. So the owners won't be approved for probably several months. That said, if this does go through, let's say the deal is agreed upon, and it certainly will give every indication of being approved. These things are rarely rejected. Then perhaps Jose Feliciano and his wife, Kwanza Jones, signal to the front office, go ahead and do this. We're good. Don't worry about it. Is that possible? Yes, it's possible. I don't know how realistic that is. And I don't know how willing the new ownership would be to act in any regard until everything is buttoned up. MLB might not want them to act in any regard until everything is buttoned up, but they can at least signal to the front office, go ahead, we'll be fine, we'll back it, whatever. Again, I don't have total details and total knowledge of this, but that would be my assumption. It's just an assumption.
Okay. And much more coming up on the Padres. We're going to talk all about the sale and the details. Ken, thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, guys.
That's Ken. And your FT Senior Insider's back on Fair Territory on Monday, but he also is part of Inside Scoop, which is presented by Game Changer, the #1 youth sports app, helps you coach smarter, connect live, and replay the action. You can learn much more at gc.com. Quick minute for us, and then back with Darren Smith to go over the Padres sale. Kratz, the world has a cord problem, wires everywhere. It's 2026, and it is time to get a
Ridge Wallet 5-in-1. It's not a wallet, it's a charger. Look at this thing. It sticks to your phone. You push the button. It charges your phone while you can charge 2 different items at the same time. Oh, and don't forget, while it's charging, you got a little lean-to, John. That'll help it sit right there. Appreciate your Ridge Wallet. This is so nice.
Which is great for me. If I'm at the airport, I'm watching a game, I can charge 5 devices and then I can just watch something on the phone. Of course, they still have the wallets that are money too. And we know the code. It's nice and simple. It's FOUL, F-O-U-L. 1 thing to pack, 5 ways to power. You can find Ridge's power bank at Best Buy, or our listeners can get 10% off at ridge.com by using code FOUL at checkout. Head to ridge.com, use code FOUL, and you're all set. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support FT and tell them we sent you.
Show me the money.
Show me the money! Show me the money!
Wow, look at that footage of anyone that has any sliver of equity in the San Diego Padres this morning as we get the news that they are going to be sold. There's approval processes and all of that, but we'll learn a lot more right now with our friend Darren Smith. Darren, great to see you again as we have you back, and really appreciate the time to talk about what's going on with this $3.9 billion number and to learn more about who this owner is, José Feliciano, connected in the soccer world. What do you know?
Yeah, unfortunately, what I know is I am not one of those people that is invested in the San Diego Padres, so I have missed my window. So, yep, I'm outside looking in, so I will be doing Friar Territory until the day that I die. But thank you for the invite. What we know is he was one of 4 finalists, and people had varying opinions about who it was that they wanted to end up winning the bid for ownership, and there were arguments made for and against all of them. For instance, Joe Lacob is the owner of the Golden State Warriors, and people are familiar with the Warriors' success, having won 4 NBA championships. So that was appealing for a lot of people. There was another guy named Dan Friedkin, who is another private equity guy who owns a couple European soccer clubs and had roots in Southern California, had roots in San Diego. In fact, was born here. His father ran a business here. So people were interested in that. Feliciano was not one, I think, that many people were saying, oh, yes, absolutely, let's make the case for him. But, that he ends up winning this bid per The Athletic and the Wall Street Journal. I think now we're all learning a little bit since the news broke this morning. It's been 3 hours of everybody hitting up Wikipedia and trying to learn as much about Chelsea Football Club and trying to learn as much about Clear Lake Capital as they possibly can. And I would say there's a cautious level of optimism here in San Diego, and fans, I think, are right to be a little bit curious, maybe a little apprehensive, because they don't know, and what you don't know sometimes can, it could set off some alarm bells. But I do think there's like a couple of range of emotions. People, I think, also just wanted to find out, well, what is next? Like we sort of can't be in this limbo state forever, with the Seidler family announcing back in November that they were going to sell the club. Like, I think people are anxious for a resolution, and now it appears like we're getting it. So as we're learning a little bit about José Feliciano, as we're learning about his wife, Kwanza Jones, I think people initially are liking what they hear. Jared Diamond of the Wall Street Journal has been making the rounds here in Southern California. I just got off the phone with him 15 minutes ago. Sounds like this is a bit of a legacy play for Feliciano and his wife. They're interested in moving a ton of their philanthropy to the market, which I think is hitting the right note early on. So early on, I think people are blown away by the sale price. Like, wow, $3.9 billion. But early returns seem like there's more optimism than there is pessimism, but, a healthy amount of, well, let's wait and see as well.
Yeah, fans want to know, is this a winner? Is this a gunslinger? Is this someone who understands what it takes to win in baseball? So it's all happening fast. But from what you've read or heard so far, the only comparison we can use is his involvement with Chelsea football.
Right.
I know almost nothing. Actually, this would have been a day to have AJ Pierzynski. I'm in his seat. He likes to follow all of that. So what is the perception of that club?
It's not great. There's a massive protest scheduled for tomorrow's Chelsea-Manchester United game by Chelsea's fans. And, the reason being is Chelsea fans were sort of spoiled. They had a Russian oligarch as an owner from the early 2000s till, whenever it was that we decided Russian oligarchs shouldn't own things in other parts of the world. So just a couple of years ago, and he was an owner who didn't care. He just spent, and, was just all about trying to win, won 5 Premier League titles, won a couple of Champions League titles. So, he just would fire coaches left and right. Like, it was always just action, and then this group came in and they were a little bit more asset, private equity, venture capitalist. Todd Bowley, who's part of the Dodgers ownership, he's been the chairperson for a little while. Clear Lake Capital, which is Jose Feliciano's, his company. He's sort of been in the background. I pay attention to this sort of stuff, and I know that the fans don't really like the club. They don't really like that it's being run like a business. They want it being run like it used to be run with this crazy Russian oligarch, Roman Abramovich, where you just spend money and just go win. Like, we don't care. We don't want to hear about financial responsibility and fiscal responsibility. We don't care about that stuff. We don't want to hear about how you're managing your assets and capitalizing on player. We're not interested. Spend and win. That's all we care about here. So, they don't like this group. This group is run like a venture capital, like a private equity company where they, boost a bunch of assets and sell them at their highest peak. And they do it for the bottom line. They treat it like an ATM. Now, the understanding is that Jose Feliciano is not using this company necessarily to buy the Padres. That this is, a $3.9 billion valuation on the team. It doesn't mean he's buying it for $3.9 billion, but whatever percentage he's getting, he's buying in at the price of $3.9 billion, which still needs to be sorted through. Maybe there's some part of current ownership that sticks around, or maybe, who knows. But it's not his Clear Lake Capital Group that's buying it. It's Jose Feliciano and his wife, Kwanza Jones. That's an important distinction. Because if it's just going to be run like a private equity company like Chelsea, then maybe Padre fans end up feeling like we're not into this. Or what's this all about? Maybe someday they end up building a level of symmetry with Chelsea fans or one of the other European soccer teams that this group owns in France. They're not too happy with ownership either. But it sounds like they are separating from that group. That this is about Feliciano and his wife, Kwanza Jones, that this is them. This isn't the private equity group. And, if that's the way the reporting is, and Jared Diamond of the Wall Street Journal, who had this first, just told me this 25 minutes ago, then I think that sounds a little bit more palatable, that there's a personal connection to these owners who are moving their philanthropy to San Diego, which is so important here. Now, are they going to move here? Nobody knows that. But are they going to be part of the community here? It sounds like those are their intentions. And I think that's a really good place to start for Padre fans, that they want to feel a connection. They don't want to have some owner who's like, well, where is he? He lives someplace else. He doesn't live here. He's not connected to this community. I don't think after what the Seidlers and Ron Fowler have delivered in this market, I don't think that would be really appealing for Padre fans. So it sounds like early on, for what it's worth, just based on this reporting that it's on a scale of Peter Seidler or just completely sort of soulless private equity. It sounds like it's much closer to the Peter Seidler side than it is the other.
Yeah, you keep mentioning his wife. Do we know anything more about her, or is the sell with her is the philanthropy that they plan on bringing to San Diego? And the second part of the question is, was this them outbidding, or was this a decision that the previous owners of the Padres made because they felt like it was in the best interest of the Padres organization and also the city of San Diego?
We just asked the same question myself, and I think we all would probably believe that this is just about the highest price, right? This is about $3.9 billion. And, part of this, maybe if it was really, really close, or maybe if there were two bids there at 3.9, you would say, hey, listen, we have an opportunity here, to pick somebody, who's going to be dialed into the community. Maybe there were some things there that would put this over the top if it were close, but it sounds like it just came down to 3.9 billion was the most money spent. Now, for the first question about Kwanza Jones, not a name, frankly, that I knew much of when I woke up today. She is an artist, a philanthropist, runs her own business. There's lots of things. I don't know her music, so you'll have to forgive me. I'm sure people in San Diego will be learning a lot about her music today. But it sounds like she has carved out her, certainly her own name, her own career, her own success. She does a lot of philanthropy herself, and it sounds like they're going to be, again, what Jared Diamond of the Wall Street Journal said, that they're going to be pretty equal in all of this. That it is going to be them. It is going to be Jose Feliciano Jr. and Kwanza Jones. Now, only one can be the chairperson. Obviously, that's per Major League Baseball rules, and that will be Feliciano. So he will be the one sitting at the table. But it sounds like what we would expect is for the two of them to be really involved in the operations of the club, both baseball, business, and philanthropic.
One more on this front. What was the perception of Joe Lacob and what he's been able to do? I know you mentioned it. If you had to pick, would you say he was the fan favorite based on the success that he's had with the Warriors franchise and the familiarity factor for people in California?
Probably. I mean, I think just because of the familiarity, right? Because it's easy to sit and say, Scott, listen, he's won 4 NBA titles, and we all, even we're still watching Steph Curry and Draymond Green do their things. And, I think there's been some good, healthy conversation about, well, how much of it is Lacob? But Lacob's success speaks for itself. We had Dave Fleming, the voice of the Giants, on recently. And, Dave is a Bay Area guy. And we asked him if the Padres end up with Joe Lacob as their owner, is this a good thing? He said, yeah, it'd be a great thing. Because look at how the ownership valuation of the Warriors is skyrocketing. They're ahead of everybody. They're ahead of my Knicks. They're ahead of everybody in the NBA. So it's an incredible success story. Now, does he deserve all the credit for that? Or, did they get Steph Curry going and Steve Kerr and Draymond Green, right? So whatever, he gets a ton of the credit. So I think people probably were most familiar with that. There was a story in Forbes not too long ago that Joe Lacob might move it. And that resonated for a little while around here, that there was some apprehension. Maybe Joe Lacob just wanted to move it to the Bay Area. I don't think that was really going to happen, but he did pick up a little bit of that stink. Not enough that I think people would have not been happy with it today. But yeah, I think he was probably the most familiar candidate. And people also like this other name, Dan Friedkin, just because he was born in San Diego and had some roots here. So that matters, because you wanted somebody who would be connected to the community. Feliciano did, spend a lot of time in his life. He was Puerto Rican born, but he did grow up in Southern California. So understands, it's not going to be, Southern California is different than it is. It's a lot different than London, right? So, if you're just dealing with some guy who only understands business in London, this is a different place. So I think it's good that Jose Feliciano and his wife have that understanding. So, but yes, to answer your question in the most long-winded way possible, I do think that people probably like the idea of Lacob just because we're sort of flying blind here, and that's the name that most people knew.
Yeah, Padres question for you. I don't know if you saw these rumors or if there's any legs to these rumors. and you cover the team. Was there any talks of Fernando Tatis playing second base during spring training? Because the rumors I saw was they were potentially showcasing him to potentially move his contract. And does that change with a new ownership group coming in?
I don't think so. The rumors about showcasing him really kind of came out of no place. I think that Fernando does a lot of things. I think, they're now, there's a ton of video that has popped up of Fernando taking ground balls at shortstop. He still does that on a regular basis. He still does take a lot of ground balls. And the idea, according to Craig Stammen, the manager, and even Fernando, is this was an idea that was kicked around a little bit during the offseason. I don't think it has anything to do with showcasing him. I don't. I think it's no. I do think maybe there's more to it than, well, we just were giving Xander Bogaerts a day off and we wanted to move Jake Cronenworth, so let's have Fernando play a position that he's really never played in the big leagues before. I do think that there might be a little something to the idea that Fernando's not been off to a great start. Still doesn't have a home run as we're here on April 17th, and maybe they were trying to stimulate him mentally in some capacity. And he had 5 hits in the 2 games that he played, so up until that point he hadn't had a ton of offensive success. So maybe they were trying something just to move him around a little bit and challenge him in a way that he had to focus there and not focus so much on what he was doing in the batter's box. But I don't think it's about showcasing. Saw that on MLB Network. Didn't really understand it. I don't think most people around here put a ton of stock into it. But, and now with the new owner, we don't even know. It's generally been believed that the Padres are going to have to take down this payroll in some capacity. It's sort of been put by Ken and by others that they're going to have to do that. Maybe this owner doesn't necessarily agree with that. So from that, I don't know. I think that if they were trying to do that, all bets are off just based on a new ownership coming through the door in a couple of weeks.
Oh, man, if you want to lose your fan base really quickly, buy the team for a ton of money and then start gutting the payroll.
That's your first move? Like that's not going to work here. That's not going to work. And you can get back a Juan Soto level kind of deal. I don't think that's going to work around these parts. So that would be a terrible first impression if that's the way the new owners were going to operate.
I agree. What you do in the beginning really sets the tone for how people look at you for a long time. So we'll see what happens. Darren, great insight. Really appreciate you coming on with us, with the quick hit last minute here in the news. We'll see what happens. And, of course, we'll catch you on everything you do, Twitter, and then, of course, Friar Territory. Thanks, man. Have a great weekend.
All right, guys. Appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Darren and Marty are awesome on Friar Territory. You'll hear much more about this topic really over the course of the year as you learn more news here, but you'll get much more, over the next few days from Marty and Darren. So please check it out. It's great on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Guys, you ever get it from your children all the time? Dad, same old meal? I get it all the time from my children. And guess what? You look at HelloFresh, all of a sudden you can get plethora of different meals. We have so many different things that we can choose from. The kids are happy, and especially my wife and I are happy. HelloFresh has all different types of varieties that can fit for you and your family.
80 plus global recipes every month. You want to travel around the world, Todd Father?
Of course.
I've had Vietnamese, Moroccan, Caribbean.
Oof.
I mean, all kinds of flavors coming at you. Unique ingredients. There's a little lemongrass, curry pastes, all pre-portioned for you too. That's the beauty of HelloFresh. So go to HelloFresh.com/FT10FM now to get 10 free meals plus a free NutriBullet Ultra Plus 2-in-1 compact kitchen system. That's a $189.99 value on your third box. Free meals applied as a discount on the first box. New subscribers only, varies by plan. Must order the third box by May 31st, 2026.
Fun article in The Athletic by Andy McCullough on how teams and players communicate all day long. It's called Group Chats, Slack Channels, and Buzzing iPhones, why MLB players now communicate just like us. And in there, Andy talks to a number of players about how they communicate and how guys get added to and booted off of group chats, how there are a number of subsets like text groups that involve just infielders or a text group just about base running, Vinny Pasquantino was listing all of the different groups that he was a part of and listed some of those text chains. So just a lot of information that I thought was really interesting. I actually want to start here, KP, because you recently did spend some time with the Rangers. They were the one team in this article as the outlier that actually used Slack. That's much more of a work messaging type of platform. And some of the other players kind of shit on it from other teams. They were like, no way would we use that. I mean, we use it company-wise, so it's nothing against the company. It's just that, players are like, nah, we just want to text and be nice and casual. So did you have that when you were there, or is that even newer?
Yeah, we use Slack when we were there. It's an added layer of challenge when you're just trying to quickly communicate. But there's other teams I was on that use things like Teamworks too. But that would be more like formal stuff like travel itinerary. If you wanted to get a hold of travel secretary and stuff like that. But I'm old fashioned, man. I think just a good old group text message, whether it's with your hitting group, your outfield group, or whatever sort of group you're a part of within a team. And even teams, just have a 26 man, and obviously the guys that come up and down are in a text thread. It makes life a little bit easier. But when you're constantly having to go on a kind of a work app like Slack, guys are less likely to respond to those things when you're trying to coordinate a team dinner or things like that.
I mean, just put it on a group thread. Like, I don't get it. Like, as much as I love group chats this much, and I hated all the teamworks, and like, if I have another app where I have to communicate, because now I coach. Well, I coach, and my daughter plays on 2 different softball teams, school and her travel team. And so I'm getting messages that I have to send out on Game Changer, which is great. It's a great messaging app, but it's another app to send messages. So for me, I love group chats. And the fact that like you get kicked out of them right away, I didn't experience that. I'll keep a group chat. We have a POS group chat because our manager in 2018 in Scranton called all of us POSs. And so the group thread is now we're working on 8 years old, and we still throw some zingers in there. Like that's the fun part. Like I always hear guys that when they retire, they're like, oh man, I miss being in the clubhouse with the guys. I don't. I'll just fire out a tweet into that, or fire out a text message into one of those group threads that I'm still part of. Like I would love to still be a part of the 2016 Astros hitting group thread, hitters group thread. Like I'd love to shoot a text message to Kyle Tucker's brother, Cole Tucker. I'd love to shoot a text message to Duffy, to Carlos Correa. Like I love doing that kind of stuff. It's a way that you keep connection with guys that you played with, whether it's a week or you played with them for 4 years.
Yeah. I find that if you're in a group message that's a little bit more team affiliated, like a hitting group, you tend to get kicked out a little bit more because you do have some police officers within like your hitting department, the coaches, the analytics people, they will kick you out. But when it comes to just, group text messages with, your teammates from certain teams that I played on, I'm still in a lot of these. And I feel like if you're not very active in them at the very beginning, they forget that you're in them. And then years later, you kind of throw a zinger in there, and it kind of re-sparks maybe a fun time in your life. And obviously with what I'm doing outside of FT, when I'm trying to get, either guests on Bluebird Territory or our other podcasts, I go through some of those old, like a Dodgers group message or a Braves group message. And that's how I find a lot of people's phone numbers. And to your point, Kratz, I got a quick introduction to real life. Here in Texas, they use SportsU a lot. And when I was the head coach of my football team, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I taking this extra layer of challenge for myself when I'm trying to set out practice schedules and communicating with teams and change of schedules? So I just got everyone's phone number and I said, you guys cool with me setting up a group text message? And it's just been so much easier. There's a purpose for those apps because you can, put the schedule on and everyone gets them. But when it comes to like instant communication, I still think people would just prefer a good old fashioned group text.
Yep. I'm with you. Hey, let's bring in our next guest. We'll ask him about this for a couple minutes before we get to the rest. And here he is, Ramon Laureano of the Padres, joining us right now. Ramon, great to have you here. And if you don't mind, we'll just bring you right into this conversation. We're just going over what it's like to communicate with teammates on your phone, group text, the whole deal. So how do you communicate with everyone throughout the day in terms of seeing what the lineup looks like and asking a teammate a question, seeing what the hotel or travel schedule looks like? And what's up? Thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
No, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, I mean, we talk a few times here and there with how good the cookies are, the ice creams and stuff in some hotels. But when it comes to what was it, hitting meetings and stuff, you guys were saying?
Yeah.
We don't really talk much, actually. I think unless there's another group, but. I don't really talk much about that stuff with anybody, really, now that I think about it. I've been very fortunate to have really good hitting meetings the past few years, so I'm very grateful for that one.
Are you still in any of the group threads, the group chats from any of your other teams that you've played for? And is there ones that you want to get kicked out of that you're like, Uncle, like, take me out. You guys are just spamming my phone. And is there some that you just absolutely love?
I mean, what was it? Like Atlanta, I got kicked out because I obviously not in that team anymore. Baltimore, it was pretty quick kicked out. But I mean, you have to get kicked out because you're not there. So, yeah, I mean, I haven't had an issue with that. So.
Yeah, a question. Speaking of Atlanta, obviously you had a really good start to your career, and then you hit a point where, you offensively you weren't the guy that you knew you could be. But then I looked at that when you got traded to Atlanta, when you got acquired by Atlanta. Since then, you've just been kind of dominant at the plate. Is there something that you kind of picked up in Atlanta, or was it just a change of scenery, get an opportunity to play every day? What kind of happened when you were there in Atlanta?
Yeah, I think. In just learning some stuff. I mean, it just got to a point where I'm either about to play in Mexico or and that's it really. And I just have to figure it out a way to just simplify, go back to the basics. I used to ask a lot of questions about the game overall. Always curious about the game, right? So I was just like, you know what? Let's just put everything together and just believe whatever I believe, and which is just backspin, low stingers on top of the baseball, a little weight shift, kind of Charlie Law book stuff, and just see I hit it. Whatever happens, happens. Trust my ability, trust my eyes, and not overthink too much and choke up a lot. I choked up, and that really simplifies things.
Was that something that was? Sorry, Erik.
No,
was that something
no,
that
go ahead,
you
KP.
felt? Was that something that you felt, or was that a conversation that you were kind of hearing? Because I think you were in Cleveland and then you went to Atlanta. Did you kind of feel like you were potentially on your way out of a major league job, and kind of Atlanta was kind of your last chance to kind of prove yourself? And if you didn't make those changes or, go out there and perform, you felt like your next step was to go maybe play in Mexico?
Maybe no, but I think I guess you just gotta be realistic, really. Where your feet are at, which I am all the time. But I think there's really nothing to lose, really. Making that whatever adjustment I had to make at that time, and it just came down to that. Just kind of believe whatever I believe, doing one thing, sticking to one thing, because I got it. I mean, right now, like old school and like new school philosophy got everybody kind of messed up in the head. So I think I just set myself with whatever I believed. So yeah.
Ramon, okay, this is the first time I've ever talked to you, but playing against you, you were fire. Like, you had this fire. Is this off-field Ramon, or is this the new Ramon who's a little bit more relaxed and not charging the dugout with Alex Cintron in the dugout? Like, you used to run around the outfield like you were angry at the baseball and running it down, throwing it, and you had like now you look like you're just like so chill. So is this two different people, on field and off field, or is this new you?
No, I mean I'm kind of chill overall. I feel like, but when I'm playing baseball, it's just I'm a 12-year-old hothead that just wants to go hard, play the game hard, like old school, how I grew up playing, and the dream is to play hard. The dream is not to just play it, and just sticking to that, sticking to how I really like to, what makes me really love this game, which is playing hard ball. So.
Yeah, speaking of adjustments, team wise, what's been the biggest difference maybe from your first 10 games of the year to the second 10 games? And then what sort of adjustments have you made from maybe hitting, towards the bottom of the order to now leading off?
Nothing really. Keeping everything the same. Keeping things simple. They're gonna throw the ball in the middle of the plate. Just thinking like that. So like I don't overthink too much. Obviously, I got people, really good hitters behind me, but not thinking too much. Obviously, smelling what they might do. Have a little idea. But kind of the only adjustment is just relax more my fingers. That's all I've been doing really, because I felt too tense early in the season. Just relaxing my fingers, and I think that makes my low better.
Makes your hands quicker too, I assume.
Yes.
But when you're like grinding the bat, your swing slower, correct? That's trying to tell the fans out there that are hearing what you're saying.
Yeah. You feel your trap a little like activated, which that's not good. Even though you might be loading early and everything, you're still swinging like kind of hard, and it shouldn't feel like that. So I just relax my hands a couple inches back, and just relax the hands and just be early, see it hit it.
All right, the Jefe, Craig Stammen, your manager, said he was dumb for hitting you in the bottom of the order. Now you're up in the top of the order. Did he have a conversation with you about that? Was he like, or did you just come in one day and you go, hey, I'm hitting at the top of the order. This is good.
Yeah, I mean, we have I told him I don't care really about the line of stuff situation. So he can do whatever he thinks he needs to do to make the team better. And at the end of the day, I've been hitting from, we're talking about 9 to 1 in the lineup my whole life, back and forth, because Oakland, that Moneyball platoon thing started a long time ago, especially over there. Not platoon thing, but the lineup, depending who's righty, lefty, whatever. So I used to think about it early in my career, but I didn't understood it. And now I understand it, but it is what it is, really. I'm just very grateful that I'm able to play this game in a very good team.
During that time, early in your career, you're going through it. And for people who don't know, Oakland, they would change the lineup. They would say, oh, this guy's more valuable in this spot than that spot. Do you feel like you could have handled it differently when you were younger, or that the team could have handled it differently? Because we always hear, well, why did this guy not work out at that place? Well, probably because of how they deployed him, and he was still a good player back at that point. Do you think they could have handled it, or you could have handled it differently?
I don't have anything bad with when I was in Oakland or any other teams. It just kind of, you're young, you don't really know when it comes to like strategy, and you don't even need to really pay attention to that stuff. You just need to just focus on playing ball. But and you learn things on the fly in the big leagues too. So I feel like, yeah, I could have maybe not think too much, really. Just kind of control what I can, which is like my hitting and playing the game hard, and that's it. And I mean, I did that, but I think I just could have just keep it as simple as I am now. But I think I have to go through that stuff to make it to adjust it now.
Hey, you get a chance to play with two pretty dynamic outfielders in center field and right field, but both of those guys haven't been playing outfield all that long. I assume you probably played outfield majority of your childhood too. Are there still questions they come to you when it comes to playing the outfield position because you've been elite defender in the outfield for a long time?
Yeah, that's crazy that these guys haven't really, I mean, there's two shortstops playing the outfield, these guys, and they don't really need to come to me. They haven't really come to me, and they don't even need to. I mean, their instincts are off the chart. Their IQ. I mean, it's unbelievable seeing these guys day in and day out. It's just the ability, their explosiveness, their range that they cover. It's pretty special to watch.
All right, another one of your teammates is doing something pretty special on the mound, Mason Miller. Do you like heavy metal music? Do you like Korn? Because what he comes out to, some people are like, I hate that kind of music. Or do you kind of get kind of chills when he comes out and talk about what you're watching him do on the mound besides falling asleep in the outfield when he's pitching?
Well, I'm Dominican. We don't really listen to a lot of heavy metal over there, but I really like when he comes out with a walk-off song. It's pretty intimidated. And then you check his stats line since he got to the Padres. Literally since Gurriel hit a homer against him like a 103. He threw like a 103 and hit a bomb. And after that, he's literally been, I thought Erik Kratz stats, whatever year he finished like top 5 in MVP or something like that. Or he won MVP, he won Cy Young, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, he did.
I thought that was like unbelievable, but this is just another level, really. I mean, it's what was it, 70 strikeouts in like 30 something innings. I mean, I don't even know really how to describe it, really. But yeah. And what was the other question you said about?
You answered both. You don't like
okay.
the heavy metal. I've never met any Dominicans that like heavy metal, so that had to make me laugh when I saw he was coming out to Korn, and I had to ask you that.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's pretty intimidating when he comes, and he's tall, intimidated guy, wide shoulders, 103.
Hey,
it's fun.
Has there been a conversation with you and the other outfielders of maybe just sitting on the bench when he comes in to close the game because you guys aren't needed out there? And speaking of good arms, Mason Miller, do you believe you can still throw from that left field corner and hit first base on a line?
I don't know, depending the adrenaline I have, but I don't know. I don't feel like I can make that. I have tried to make that throw, and it's hard. It was just a perfect day in Anaheim, perfect grip, perfect weather, but it's hard to make that throw just because of the anxiety of it, right? But when I'm in the outfield and Mason is pitching, I think it's been the only time in my career that I'm not gonna lie, I have done it a couple times when I'm just like watching. I don't even care about making a play because I am not gonna make a play. And literally, that's the first time I ever really. I have thought of taking my glove off, but like that would be so disrespectful for the whole baseball world. But like that's the only time I have thought of that. So, I mean, that it's really unbelievable, really.
Hey, did you face him at all in spring training? And have you faced him at all in your career?
Yeah,
What's
I
that
faced him one time last year. Yeah. I mean, I don't even care about saying this, but I told him that I was taking the whole time, and I walked. and yeah, and in spring training, I could have faced him a couple of times, but for what, like why would you face him in spring training? There's no really reason for that. There's nothing. You're not really gonna get better at that. So, yeah, literally, it's a whole nother planet. Really, this guy, it's unbelievable.
Can you please just one pitch, not have your glove on for just one pitch for us? You'll know. I'll know in my heart that was for foul territory. Just one.
I'll do one.
Okay, perfect.
I think I can do it.
All right. Well, we talk about domination. I had no idea. I knew you were Dominican. I had no idea you went to Northeastern Oklahoma A&M. How on earth do you get to that college, which you are one of 4 big leaguers to ever play at that college? Clearly the best player to ever. But how do you get there from where you grew up?
I grew up in the Dominican. I got a scholarship when I was 15 to go to high school in Long Island. It's called Upper Room Christian School, and then I got a scholarship to go to the junior college, Northeastern Oklahoma, as a pitcher, and they really like hitters, and I was hitting BP first day, and he said, you like to hit? And I'm like, yeah, I love hitting more than pitching. And that's it. That was it.
Wow. Wild journey. Yeah. It's really cool. And then I remember last year when you ended up with San Diego traded there, you told AJ Preller, like, you're crazy, dude. You're acquiring everyone. Well, it's working. It's been fun, obviously. You guys got a great team, big winning streak going on. Thanks for joining us, Ramon. Really enjoyed the conversation. Hope you did too.
No, thank you guys. I enjoyed it pretty good.
Thank you. Yeah, good luck. Take care. Appreciate you. That's Ramon Laureano with us on FT. Padres outfielder. Padres are rolling right now. And, of course, we're talking about him a lot this week with the sale going on as well. All right, let's keep rolling. Shall we? BetMGM Locks. A loss for me, a loss for Pap yesterday. AJ's big parlay hit, Kratz. And you did too. Actually, your big plus money, plus hundo over hit to get yourself in much better shape. We can sweep the money bags. 5 hundo piece, Kratz.
Oh, that is so wrong.
That's not the right number. Yeah, that's not the right number.
It's okay. I love everybody. Okay? Everybody's doing a great job. Behind the scenes, everybody is.
Trying to pick a fight with producer lady? Good luck.
I'm not. I'm not. I said everybody's doing great.
I know what you mean, and she knows what you mean. She's snarling at you right now, but yeah, and she's probably going, "Oh, sorry, Kratz, I put down 836 instead of down 436 or something."
436.
But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I want to go back to something real quick because we were talking about the communication aspect of all these different apps and stuff. Mm-hmm. When it's a blessing is when you get that message maybe in Slack or Teamworks that you don't check all the time, and it's like, hey, you're on backfield 4 and Mason Miller's throwing alive and you're supposed to hit. It's the perfect excuse to be like, hey, I didn't get it. I have no idea where to find this.
That is such a good melding of two stories. Like, yeah. Oh, for real?
That's all I was thinking about when he was talking about it was like, oh, no, there's no reason for me to be out there. I'm not going to get any better. It's like, well, if you're told by your coach, like you got to be there, but you have all these different apps, you're like, I just didn't get it. I missed it.
Yeah. Did you get the Did you get the memo? I sent out a TPS report. Nope. Mason Miller, you said field 9. I'll be there. No, field 5. 9. I got you. Okay, we're gonna go.
You're breaking up.
Yeah. If you want me, you're gonna have to come send the cart.
Wow! Look at this. Look how quick that was. Updated money bag. So Todd, AJ, and Pap are up so far this year. I'm down 356. Kratz with his big hit last night gets him to minus 436.
I'm Claudia's favorite. I know it. She would have never done that for AJ. I love that. Nope. Thank you, Claudia.
So you're up, Kratz. Win us some money tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking to get my first back-to-back. I'm feeling like the Rockies, not winning a whole lot of games, but you know what? You got to come in strong. So I'm going Tyler Glasnow, who is facing the Rockies, to get 7.5 over, 7.5 strikeouts. So he needs 8. Last time he faced the Rockies, he had 11. He's surpassed 8. I forget how many times, but I see it happening. I feel like Glasnow is going to do it. So it's minus 110. I'm going to put 550 up to win 500.
Look at you. You're just all of a sudden Mr. Moneybags here, rolling a 550 to win 500. People can change. People can change. Everybody's going a little harder this year.
Speaking of Moneybags, did you guys see the story when Trout and Judge hit the homer? There was like 9 guys who had multiple home run games. And they said if you would have bet $1 on all 9 of those guys, it was like $1 trillion payout. So I'm inspired by that. I'm not going to quite go as many guys and multi-homer games, but I am putting $100 down on Kyle Schwarber to hit a home run, James Wood to hit a home run, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to hit a home run. That's a $100 bet to win just about $18,000. So that's what I'm going with today.
Oh my God, that would be epic.
Did you guys see that story on the multi-homer games?
No.
I mean, I've seen stuff like that pops up where, if you pick some crazy occurrence, and I saw that one the other day. Yes. So yeah, if you add them all up, you also, if you add all that up and you put that down,
on a small scale, but I'm doing it. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't do a ton of research on who these guys are facing. I just picked 3 names that I feel like are capable of hitting a home run today. And those are the 3 guys I'm going with on a Friday. It's a good day for those 3 to go deep. It's a Friday.
Yep.
Crazier things have happened, and it's a very, very attractive plus money bet. I'll finish up here. I'm going to take the over in the Cardinals-Astros game. We can show the board of picks here. Oh, wait, we have Pap too? Yes, we do have Pap. Sorry. So I'll go quick here, but I got Cardinals-Astros over 8.5, 115 to win a hundo. Look at the pitchers and their lines and their history. And I like both offenses. I think the Astros offense has to carry a depleted team right now, and they picked up Peter Lambert to start today. And then for the Cardinals, I still think there's value in the offense and what some of these young players are doing and what they're turning into. So I'll take the over in that one. And Pap, what are you doing?
What's up, my beautiful people of FT? It's your boy Parlay Pap coming to you with my daily pick. Pretty simple today. I'm taking the Houston Astros against the St. Louis Cardinals in the money line and the Dodgers against the Rockies in the money line. And we're getting plus 120 on it, and we're putting 500 on it because we're back to about even on the money. So we're putting 500 on it. We're going to jump up 500 with this easy parlay today. Let's get that cheese. Woo.
Good for you, Pap. A little plus 120 piece. That's real for those 2 homers? That actually seems too big.
3 homers.
3.
It is.
Still.
It's real. James Wood's got to do it against.
17,807 for 3 dudes to homer?
He's got to do it against. James Wood's at plus 600. Vladdy's at plus 550. And Kyle Schwarber is at 280, comes out to 17.
Wow.
Hey, why not me? Why not me?
Why not? Why not all of us at FT?
That is some craziness. All right, so a couple other things just to give you a glimpse of what's going on this weekend. Actually, let's start here since this could affect the way that you look at the rest of the series here with the Mets and the Cubs. They're just starting up now, and I heard the wind's blowing out like crazy, so there could be a lot of homers today. A couple injury updates, though. I don't even remember if we mentioned this with Ken, so I'll mention it again. Jorge Polanco is going through multiple injury issues now, so he's getting imaging, right wrist soreness on top of the Achilles bursitis for the new Met who signed a 2-year $40. He's going through it right now. He's had an injury history. This is a player who's definitely dealt with a lot. So he is dealing with more now. And, the news gets tougher. In that same series, the Cubs keep losing arms. We talked about this yesterday with not just the starters, but the bullpen arms going down, Phil Maton and Hunter Harvey. We just got this news that Danny Palencia is going on the shelf, their big fireballer. A strained left oblique for him. That's a tough blow, Kratz, for a Cubs team that I would say weakness-wise doesn't have a ton of swing and miss firepower in their bullpen, especially now with all these guys out. And Porter Hodge, they lost for the year. I mean, the big like swing and miss arms are just either out for the year or out for a while.
And I mean, I guess you would say, I guess it's glass half full or half empty. Chicago can be a place that you just need contact pitchers. You don't necessarily need strikeouts. So, but the wind's blowing out and you have contact guys, then Wrigley turns into a slam fest. So Palencia being hurt, to me, I honestly thought until Palencia came on the scene partway through last year is like dominant. I thought Porter Hodge was going to be the guy. I mean, this dude was coming in just throwing ridiculous bowling ball cutters up there that were like nobody was touching. And now you lose both those guys for any amount of time. Very few bullpens can sustain that. Besides the Padres could probably lose 2 high-end upper echelon arms and still be able to sustain it. But even then, like, it just changes how your team is going to look. And for the Cubs, I talked about it the other day with the Padres bullpen. The Cubs now lose 2 guys at the end of the game. Somebody has to step up for those big innings, but also who in their rotation is going to give them 6 or 7 innings every other time through the rotation? Like, to me, is Tyone going to be able to step up? Is this what they got in Edward Cabrera? Is Craig Counsell even going to be allowed to let those guys go that long? I think, to me, if somebody's going to give you some length, it would be Tyone. Shota, maybe he regains his rookie of the year or his rookie year status where he was going complete game. Maybe he gives you innings, but you need somebody to give you innings to mitigate the loss of 2 big bullpen pieces, no matter how good their bullpen is or isn't.
Yeah,
I mean, I heard you guys. What was it yesterday or the day before with Todd Father? You guys were talking about Lucas Giolito and a fit, and I feel like it's even more of a fit now because you do need some more depth in your rotation, which could move a guy like Assad into the bullpen and could kind of be more of a long relief guy when some of these starters don't go deep into the game. But also to Kratz's point too, if there's ever a time in the year, and I know you only play half your games at home and the wind is blowing out today, but historically in Wrigley Field early on in the season, you can get away with less swing and miss and a little bit more contact because that wind acts as like a 10th defender out there. But at some point, it's just too much to overcome. And it's just like, it feels like, and I think we talked about this last time I was on Kratzy, it's, sometimes the difficulty early in the year is when you go from these warm places like Florida and Arizona, and then you get into a cold climate like Chicago, and then you go on the road and you come back. It's a very difficult thing that an athlete has to deal with, going from cold to warm, back to cold. And sometimes the body just can't handle it.
Good analysis. And one more game I just wanted to throw out there, a weekend set that I think will be good. Rangers-Mariners, 9:40 Eastern tonight. You've got DeGrom matching up with Logan Gilbert. That's a good little opener there to start the series. Good little first gamer. Also, Mariners coming off being swept by the Padres, including that tough loss for them where the Padres blitzed them in the 9th. We talked about the other day. And then again, Padres got the job done last night against Seattle. We'll see how they bounce back. All right, home run bets, no sweat home run tokens. That could be your answer to get your stake back in bonus bets. You don't have to worry if your bet didn't clear the fences. You activate that token when you bet on any player to hit a home run in any MLB game. If that player does not go yard, you get your stake back in bonus bets. Keep the action in scoring position with BetMGM, the king of the big swing. Gambling problem or concern, there's help. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Hey, it's Tiger Territory host Cody Stavenhagen joining us right now from The Athletic. But first, we're going to talk about an article that hits all teams. Cody, great to have you on. And I wanted to spend some time on the homework that you did and put into a great article on what's going on with the strike zone and how the ABS system affects that. So can you lay it out? And then we'll also get our guys and just turn this into more of a discussion like KP and Kratz to reply.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone in baseball is obviously talking about the ABS right now. And I feel like a lot of the discussion has just gone to, is this good? Is this bad? How do we feel about the challenges? How are we using the challenges? And almost overlooked is something that was kind of laid out in the impetus of MLB going to the ABS, which is that the strike zone has changed. The rule book strike zone and the ABS strike zone are two different things. Most notably, we now base the strike zone on a percentage of players' height, which has several interesting ripple effects. Number one, how are umpires supposed to know what the bottom or top of the zone is? How do you look at someone and know what 27% of their height looks like? And to some degree, pitchers are dealing with the exact same thing. They no longer have those set, easy visual cues just below the shoulders or the hollow of the kneecap to know the top and bottom of the zone. Now, a lot of pitchers are basing their cues more off the catcher anyway, but some are doing some homework to know in advance what zones look like on certain guys. Now, with this, the top of the zone is smaller and the walk rate has risen quite significantly. It's 9.9%. To some degree, MLB expected that. They saw a very similar trend in AAA, but 9.9%. Now, I know it's early, I know it's April, but that'd be the highest walk rate in more than 70 years, guys. And if you exclude the shortened 2020 season, the walk rate hasn't been 9 since the year 2000. So that's a pretty sharp rise in walks. There may be some more ripple effects to come as everyone continues adjusting to the ABS and basically what's a new strike zone.
In the research, have you seen any numbers that would indicate, well, this is going to be the norm, or will there be a regression back to the mean of the amount of walks with that walk rate spiking? Obviously, we don't know. You're not a fortune teller, but is there something that would indicate, okay, well, everyone will figure it out, including the pitchers, including the umpires, and we'll get back to or is this the new norm?
Yeah, I think to some degree it's the new normal. Will it be this extreme? Who knows? But right now, the best evidence we have is what happened in AAA last year. A full ABS challenge system from start to finish, and the walk rate jumped, more than a percentage point. So there's reason to suggest this is what happens. AAA has experimented with different iterations of the ABS over the past few years. The walk rate has stabilized a little bit as this has gone on, but it's still much higher than it was pre-ABS. Some of the trends we're seeing at the MLB level right now kind of reflect what's happened in AAA, where the overall percentage of pitches in the zone is lower. As a result of that, the swing rate from hitters is lower. I think as everyone comes to know this zone, whether that's catchers, batters, pitchers, umpires, there may be some adjustment. But in at least the short term, it could mean even more walks as hitters increasingly learn to lay off the high pitch, that high fastball that can be unhittable from certain pitchers. And so maybe the question that's still unanswerable is if hitters really learn to lay off that pitch, what does that mean for the art of pitching? Or I think we're already seeing a slight uptick in sinkers and changeups, pitchers going a little more east-west. And what will that look like for the game? I think these are some of the many questions that kind of come up and that it's going to take some time, probably multiple seasons to fully answer.
Yeah, these are more comments, and I'll ask Kratz a question, but I feel like the strike zone was always defined in the rule book, right? But it was very arbitrary to what the umpire decided to call. So I'm a huge fan. I'm also pro hitter that there is a defined strike zone now, even though, when you're sitting back there catching, Kratz, you can't really, estimate what's, 26.7% of their body height. But I could also imagine you're probably not back there, Kratzy, setting up a target right at the hollow of the knees. It becomes more of a feeling when you're back there. But I also think this just kind of highlights how good umpires are, and I think for a long time when we talked about this in our production meeting, I think they're just finally being held accountable. There's a repercussion for them to kind of just call whatever they feel like is a strike. But when they have a defined strike zone that they can actually lock into, these guys are pretty good. And I think it's been great for the game. I know it's a little bit more challenge for pitchers, and maybe there's an adjustment for pitchers, but I love the fact that it's implementing the game. I think it's added a layer of entertainment. I've been at a couple games covering the Blue Jays, and when that happens instantaneously, you can kind of feel this people holding their breath in the stadium in anticipation of what the call is going to be, whether it's for the team or against the team, but it's just added this extra layer of entertainment. But Kratzy, maybe you could speak on it when you're back there as a catcher. it's more of a feeling you have catching than actually setting your glove at, like measuring the top of the zone or the bottom of the zone. You're kind of just setting up a target.
Yeah, you're setting up a target, but I also want to know, like, are some catchers like setting the hitter up, like giving like I know that was in the zone, but I kind of caught it bad to set the hitters up. There's a lot of gamesmanship, and I love how, Cody, you highlighted the fact that the walk rate is up, but the fact that how are you supposed to know? How are you supposed to know what that percentage is? And through the different stuff that you looked at, is it still the top of the zone? You talked about the top of the zone, but we've had 3 or 4 catchers on the show, and they've all said the same thing. I just don't know where the top of the zone is. And did you hear that, or have you heard that from umpires too?
Yeah, I personally haven't spoken to any umpires based on the sense that's out there. Ken Rosenthal, what some others have reported. I think umpires certainly share the similar feeling. The top of the zone was seemingly altered a little bit more than the bottom of the zone. There have been some mysteries at the bottom of the zone too. But if you look at the data of just what pitches are getting challenged the most, it's pretty interesting. The bottom of the zone is where the most challenges are. So does that tell you no one knows the bottom of the zone, or does that tell you everyone's pretty confident in the bottom of the zone, so they're going to challenge? Where the least challenges have occurred is up top, which actually I personally tend to think means batters aren't quite sure what the top is. Catchers aren't quite sure where the top is. There's still a degree of mystery up top. I think talking to pitchers for sure, that's what got mentioned the most. Just the uncertainty of that, how batters are reacting to pitches up top. I think that's what everyone is kind of talking about the most. And to be clear, these things weren't necessarily complaints. I think the large consensus in the game, as you point out, Kevin, like people tend to like the ABS. But I do think it's important to note it's not just like, all right, the ABS is here, people tend to like it, it's good. Like there are small little ripple effects that are coming out. When you fundamentally change the strike zone, you fundamentally change the game.
You talked about the areas. Is there a pitch that has been challenged more often? Like, are more sliders challenged? Are more fastballs challenged? Splitters? Is there one pitch that sticks out as an outlier that's challenged more?
Yeah, well, right now, in terms of just the sheer volume, it's forcing fastballs, but that makes sense. Forcing fastballs are still the most commonly thrown pitch. So I'm not a good enough mathematician to break down each percentage of pitches that are getting challenged. But I think it's probably telling the second and third most commonly challenged pitch are the sinker and the slider. Pitches kind of with later horizontal movement that are going, out of the zone. I think that's telling sinkers for sure. I mean, again, a commonly thrown pitch, but some of these sinkers these days that are moving the width of the plate and have hard late movement. Combine that with pitchers are using sinkers a little bit more often. I think maybe that's been kind of the toughest pitch to pick up for batters, umpires, pitchers, catchers alike.
What have you seen with the Tigers in terms of how successful they have been? Are they using it more offensively, defensively? And have you had conversations with players or even AJ about kind of the strategy that they've collectively come up with of how to use their challenges?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Tigers, I think like most teams, but maybe not quite every team, are pretty focused on using it in leverage situations, right? If there's a chance to flip a count big time to go from a strikeout to a walk, or if there are runners on base, that's a good time to use it. Is an 0-0 pitch in the first inning with no one on base really the best time to deploy your challenge? Look, you better be sure. And that's probably the overwhelming point. Like you better be sure, or if you're not quite sure, you better be using it in a situation where there is something at stake. The Tigers have been pretty good at challenges. I think most notably Dylan Dingler has been phenomenal. He was entering yesterday, I think 9 for 11. So he's been really accurate behind the plate. He's flipped a big count this past week at the plate, going from a walk to extend an inning. So Dylan Dingler has actually been one of the stars of the challenge system so far.
Must be the American League Central, because I think Ryan Jeffers at one point had 10 successful, I think out of 12 or something like that, but 8 of them were for strikeouts. So just to your point, they want to do it in leverage counts. Do you see, obviously, April 17th, we are very new into ABS, but based on the success of it, or based on how it's been taken, do you see a tweak that, or what's your what's your Nostradamus tweak that you think might happen with ABS? We had a guest on the other day that was like, they're going to go to full robo umpires at one point, and I'm forgetting who it was, and I was like, what? No, I don't want that.
Yeah, it is interesting that given there's been a positive response so far, does that make like full robo umps more likely? I don't know. I mean, I think maybe, but I also think it's worth noting that right now fans seem to like the challenge system, players seem to like the challenge system, even umpires don't totally hate the challenge system. So if you have something that's working pretty well, even adds that little extra element of strategy and suspense even to the game. I'm not sure they should touch it. And I say that as someone who's kind of been like, well, if you have the technology to get calls right, why wouldn't you use it all the time? But right now, the challenge system has been kind of fun, kind of interesting. Like the strategy behind it that we were just talking about. I almost wonder if they should leave it there. Now, I don't think they're going to change anything mid-season, but some of the strike zone stuff we were talking about, I wonder if that will eventually change. Previously, or in the rulebook, the strike zone is still defined as a three-dimensional object, and the ABS zone is like a pane of glass, two-dimensional, hung in the middle of the plate. So can they perfect this technology where they can implement the 3D strike zone and it's a little different? Or if the walk rate really becomes a problem, is it as simple as to say, all right, let's raise the top of the zone a little bit, get it back a little bit more like it used to be? That might be the most obvious solution if they were to tweak things down the line.
You laid out your research and you talked about the top of the zone, and obviously the research shows that. But have you had conversations with pitchers within the organization kind of expressing their frustration with not really knowing where the top of the strike zone is, or is this all based off of research?
Yeah, based on conversations with Tigers pitchers, some other pitchers around the league. My colleague Zach Mizell spoke to a couple pitchers with the Guardians, with the Royals. And I wouldn't frame it so much as frustration, but it's more just like kind of talking out the uncertainty. Yeah, players definitely said like the top of the zone is the one that everyone is still figuring out.
What about the fear of time of game, pace of game? Have you heard that? Because I think we had the numbers from the minor leagues, and I think it's still on par with that. But is there fear of pace of game?
Yeah, no one told me that on the record, but just conversations I've had since the start of spring training, that thought has definitely come up. If walks are up, which again, MLB kind of knew walks were going to raise a little bit, is that going to impact the pace of play? Which improving the pace of play has been such a good thing for the game over the past few seasons. I do think that's a real question. If the pace of play right now is pretty stable or at least close to where it was before, then maybe it's not an issue. But if the walk rate continues to be a concern, if hitters start laying off more pitches and the walk rate keeps going up, at what point does that become an issue? I certainly think that's a really important thing to keep an eye on.
So over the last couple of years, the Tigers have kind of been the alpha of that division, and we've come to expect a certain thing from the Detroit Tigers. Is there reason to panic, or is this just kind of some early season not playing their best baseball right now?
Yeah, it's fine to say alpha of the division. They haven't won the divisions in 10 years. They've been a playoff team the past 2 years, but fumbled away the division lead last year. And then in terms of their start to the season, it's kind of been all over the place. They had a really rough road trip in Minnesota. They lost 4 in a row. They started 4-9. They weren't really playing a clean or good brand of baseball. They weren't pitching that well. And then they got back home and they won 6 in a row. They beat the Royals in 3 consecutive one-run games. Terrific comeback, a long day at the park yesterday that had multiple delays. They won that on a Colt Keith walk-off single. So a really good homestand. Now they're 10-9. Now everyone is feeling a little bit better. I think most notably the pitching, the starting pitching in particular, starting to come along, strung together really 6 consecutive really strong starts. I think pitching and a clean brand of play is huge for the Tigers. They have enough offense, but it's going to take elite pitching, I think, for them to win this division. And at least over the past week, we started to see more signs of that.
Who do you think makes the next step for the rest of the season? Do you think it's Flaherty, or do you think it's Kiter Montero, who I thought was going to take the next step, and then he kind of, they got Framber, so it kind of, not that he took a back seat, he's still in the rotation, but you saw what he did in the WBC, and then you're like, oh no, like obviously it's all small sample size. But one of those two guys really needs to step up for this team if they want to make the run that they're planning on making And that's why they're keeping Tarik Skubal to win the World Series. They need that third guy to step up.
Yeah, for sure. This in spring when people are saying, well, do the Tigers have the best rotation in the American League? That conversation was less dependent on Tarik Skubal and Framber Valdez, who are really good. You have a pretty good idea what you're going to get, and more dependent on Jack Flaherty, Casey Mize, even Justin Verlander. Verlander's on the IL right now. Montero's been really impressive in his place. If and when Verlander gets back healthy, what does that even mean for Montero? I don't know. These things tend to figure themselves out. All it takes is someone else tweaking a muscle, and maybe Montero's in the rotation for another month. He's been really good. He's been really impressive. He's commanding his stuff better than ever. Flaherty's coming off a really good start after a couple of rough ones. But I would throw Casey Mize in that conversation too. Mize has looked pretty good so far this season. He's had one start where his splitter was terrific and good as ever. He had a little bit of a rough start in Minnesota. And then this past homestand had one where he was pretty good. His fastball command was good. He made some big pitches in big spots, even with runners on base. He pitches tonight against the Red Sox. I actually like what I'm seeing from Casey Mize, and I would throw him at the top of that list.
Hey, quick question. Cole Keith. So I saw the tweet about, sitting in front of his locker, talked about breathing. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, Colt Keith's off to a really good start to the year, his third MLB season. We've seen flashes of good play from Colt in his first couple of years, but also some pretty prolonged droughts, most notably really bad starts to the season in both 2024 and 2025. He set a goal to correct that, to come out the gate hot, and he's done that. He's hitting above 300, had the walk-off single yesterday. Talking to Colt about it, he kind of attributes the mental work more than the physical. He got big into breathing exercises, kind of inhaling through the nose, doing some things that you think can send more oxygen to his tissues. And so he's actually crediting that breathing exercises for why his swing speed is up and his average exit velocity is up. You guys can read a little bit more about that on The Athletic, but it's been kind of interesting. You see these guys, their physical profile starts to change, or their StatCast page starts to change. And sometimes you go talk to them and it's as simple as, oh yeah, I started doing breathing exercises.
Quick reply before we jump. KP or EK, any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it just reminds me of Laureano. He just loosened the grip in his fingers a little bit and he starts hitting the ball harder. So yeah, I mean, from an educational standpoint, like Kratz touched on, sometimes less is more, and it sounds exactly what he's trying to do. When you breathe, you're a little bit more relaxed, the tension's off, the bat starts to go through the zone a little bit more. So yeah, I love when guys are open and honest about talking about that, because we spend a lot of time talking about these physical changes that need to be done in the cage and hitting your way out of it. Sometimes you need to step away from the physical aspect, take some time mentally to work on things like that, and you're seeing him reaping the benefits of it.
I was definitely
Cody, good
breathing.
stuff. Yeah.
I was breathing when I played, but it sounded more like this. Oh man, they're gonna send me down. Colt Keith doesn't have to worry about that, so good for him. He's locked up now. He possibly could have been going if they had changed in positions again, but fortunately they haven't done that. So maybe those breathing exercises will continue to help him.
I'll look for more on Cody's Twitter, and I think it would be a cool topic to bring up on Tiger Territory coming up on the next one too. So Cody, appreciate the time, man. Great article in The Athletic on the ABS. I loved the combo just now, and we'll catch you soon, bud.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. Cody Stavenhagen and Kieran Steckley, part of Tiger Territory, part of the FT Network, all over Tigers coverage all year long. Go check it out. Hey, let's slap. And this is sad news to pass along that broke during our show. Garrett Anderson, who is really an Angels legend. For all we talked about Trout earlier in the show, the all-time leader in games, hits, runs, RBIs, many more categories. Garrett Anderson, staple out in Anaheim. Super well respected, great dude, kind soul, passes away at the age of 53. Awful. And, when you say it, you're like, what the heck happened? the only thing I've seen so far, John Heyman said heart attack is suspected. So something medically just terrible. So we're thinking about the family, anyone that's known him and friends with him, Angels organization. Mike Trout just put something out on socials. So it's very, very difficult to learn the news just now during the show. KP, did you run into him at all when you were with the Angels?
Yeah, he was around. He did some TV stuff for the team. But I grew up in Southern California. I was more of a Dodger fan, but obviously the Angels were somewhat popular at that time too during their World Series runs. And I just remember what a perfect guy to talk about, slowing the game down and looking like things came easy to him and breathing and not gripping the bat tight, because he had a sweet left-handed swing, and he was fun to watch. And I would imagine Mike was pretty close with him because he's obviously Angels royalty, and he was around a ton. I got a chance to interact with him very little during my time there, but he was a big part of the Angels family, doing some TV and then also just kind of being an ambassador for the Angels.
I was trying to see if it was Bobby Wilson that said it. I think Bobby played with him. But anyway, whoever it was one of Garrett Anderson's teammates. And he goes, bro, he said, I used to just stew when I'm on deck, taking practice swing. And he goes, one day I looked up and Garrett Anderson is kneeling on a knee with his bat, resting on the leg that's up. And they were like, what are you doing? He's like, just getting ready to go hit. And his swing looked like there wasn't much effort in it. But the results were an absolute laser show. I mean, some of the years he's a guy that you need a baseball reference, especially on a day when, his family's mourning his loss. Like, pay some tribute to a sweet swinging left-handed hitter that absolutely raked and probably was one of the more underrated players during that time.
Angels won a World Series in 2002. He had what ended up being the winning hit, the difference maker in the final game there. Garrett Anderson, gone way too soon, 53 years old. They're going to wear a patch. They already announced that for the rest of the year. It's just tough, especially when you learn of someone that's passing away at that age. That's it for us here on FT. You got a few extra minutes back, so go watch some Garrett Anderson clips for those few extra minutes that we'd usually fill for you, and then we'll be back with you on Monday. The usual, let's do Kratz hats, get a smile on the way out. What do you got?
I mean, the Braves, one of Garrett Anderson's teams that people didn't realize he played for. So,
yep, good call. Enjoy the weekend, everyone. We'll see you Monday.